Right, I know that we were all calling for this, but Rangers could have done it 10 minutes earlier. But yes, the announcement is that Michael Beale is no longer the Rangers manager. He has been let go by the club, and I will read out the club statement before I bring in Wilf. So yeah, Rangers Football Club can confirm it has parted company with men's first team manager, Michael Beale. The Rangers board would like to put on record their thanks to Michael and his staff for their efforts since joining the club last November. Results this season have fallen short of what everyone connected to Rangers would expect. Therefore, the decision was reached today to terminate the contract of the manager, as well as the contracts of coaches Neil Banfield, Damien Matthew, Harry Watland and Jack Aid. The club is pleased to announce that Stephen Davis will lead the interim management team. The team will consist of former Rangers player and hugely experienced coach Alex Rae, former Rangers player and current coach Stephen Smith, coach Brian Gilmore and goalkeeping coach Colin Stewart. Rangers chairman John Bennett commented, "I'd like to thank Michael for his dedicated work since he rejoined the club as manager last November. It is clear the results have fallen well short of the board's, Michael's and our supporters' expectations. The search process for the new manager is already underway. I wish Stephen Davis and the interim management team every success. They will remain in charge for as long as it takes to make the right appointment." Wolf, your reaction?
It was inevitable. I'm quite surprised that it's happened this quick, because I'm on record on social media earlier today as saying, because we're away from home in the next 2 games, I didn't expect it to be this soon, because it wouldn't really affect attendances at Ibrox, etc., etc., etc. But they've obviously listened to the support, because since yesterday afternoon I haven't heard a single person, or haven't seen anything from anybody sticking up for Michael Beale, and that's unusual, because even when Gio was hanging by a thread, there was 1 or 2 people sticking up for him. There's been nothing. I mean, it's just yesterday was the final straw. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and I think for everybody else. It was inevitable. It's the very fact that they broke the news at 8:30 on a Sunday night tells you that they were desperate to do it, because that's not the sort of time you would normally break these sort of stories. I mean, obviously, I'd like to put on record, thank Michael Beale for his efforts, but it's too big a job for him. It's simple as that. It just seemed to be too big a job for him for me. I think he took on too much. I've said that previously on the podcast. He's trying to do basically everybody's job. He's head coach, first team manager, director of football, trying to do it all. You can't do it all. And as I've said previously, I don't know whether it's a case of he said to the board, don't worry about replacing Ross Wilson, I can do it. Or they've said, we ain't going to replace him, you're doing it. I don't know whose fault that is. But we needed somebody else in there to give him a hand. I mean, if there's a director of football above him, when he's signing as many attacking players as he's signing, somebody could have said, hold on, stop. You've got enough attacking players. Sign defensive players. Do have a slightly different signing strategy. So I don't know if the blame's all on him, but the statement says it all. The results weren't what we need. I mean, 7 league games into the season, we've lost 3. Every league game we've lost a goal, and this season we've lost the game. Simple as that. The games we've kept clean sheets in, we've won, but we haven't scored a lot of goals. I mean, we've let 30 goals go from the team. One of Michael Beale's biggest sins for me was letting Antonio Cholak go. When he scores loads and loads of goals and he's replaced him with guys that can't score goals. So it was inevitable he had to go. As for the new management structure, it's Rangers men, and we've been crying out for Rangers men to get involved. Stephen Davis, he's never had a crack at any sort of management before, but he knows the club. He'll know the players because he's still in and about doing his rehab and stuff like that at the club. So he'll know all the players. So that's handy from that point of view. Alex Rae, as far as I know, has got a UEFA Pro license. We need that for Thursday, which is probably one of the reasons Alex Rae's in there. He's also got management experience. Obviously not at our level, but he's got experience there. Stephen Smith, again, he's currently coaching at the club, same with Colin Stewart and Brian Gilmore. So they'll know the players will know them. So that's a bit of continuity. The only one that's coming in from outside is Alex Rae, and a lot of the players will know who he is anyway, because he's about the club a lot. So I think the interim team, got to wish them all the best and hope they hit the ground running on Thursday in Cyprus. But as for Michael Beale, it was inevitable. I think he probably knew it himself. It probably should have happened after the Celtic game, but after yesterday's game with Aberdeen, we just can't go on. We're limping from because you can't see what he was trying to do. There was no structure. There was no discernible style of play that just wasn't working. It just some of his substitutions were baffling. His team selections didn't make sense. It just didn't work. Simple. It was a gamble we took and it didn't work.
No, it didn't work, and look, you have to turn around and say, right, okay, eventually, well done, Rangers board. However, the time it's took them to come to this decision for me is shocking. It should, like you say, when you have people, myself, you, Wilf, basically every fan that you can engage with after that Celtic game saying, no, time up, he has to go. When everybody's saying it, because you normally always have a fair percentage of people who, will defend a manager or a board or whatever before it's time to go. But everybody will be saying it was time to go. And for me, this has came a couple of weeks too late. However, at least the deal, at least the sacking has been made and it's done. But there was people saying, well, for the argument that we should just leave it until the international break, give the board time to find a suitable replacement rather than bringing in an interim management team. But for me, every day that Beale was there, every day longer, it was just bringing negativity around the fans, around Ibrox, around Auchenhowie. For me, this is 100% the right decision.
That's 100% the right decision. As we both said, it probably was a couple of weeks too late. But I can understand why they didn't get rid of him after the Celtic game, because okay, the way he approached the game was completely wrong. But we weren't out. The league wasn't out of sight. We were 4 points behind. We'd only lost 2 goals. Okay, they were both 1-0 defeats. But you could probably turn that round. But we're limping from crisis to crisis. Everybody's gone. I mean, that's 3 home games in a row. The team's been booed off the park. And one of them was a victory. That says it all. I mean, the Motherwell game, we won the game, and the supporters booed the team off the park. You know what I mean? That's unheard of at Ibrox for me. It's been poisonous. It's been toxic. So they had to do something. They really should have done it straight after the game yesterday. I mean, we were saying at the game when it went 2-1 that if Michael Beale had anything about him, we would walk away. Now we know that's never going to happen, because no manager worth their salt's going to walk away from a 4-year contract. Nobody, you wouldn't do it, I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? People aren't going to do it. And it probably does take a bit of time to negotiate what the payoff's going to be when they fire him and get the interim team in place, because you have to have somebody ready to take over. But as I say, I'm surprised it's happened at this time on a Sunday night, but it had to happen. It was inevitable, and I can only wish the interim team all the best. And it's encouraging that the statement says they'll be in the position as long as it takes to find the replacement, because the replacement has to be right. Because we can't go on having managers for 10, 11, 12 months. We have to get the next. We said we had to get the last one right. And we said the one before that we had to get right. This one has to be right, because we can't go on like this. It's costing us a fortune in replacing management teams, because it's not just the manager, it's the whole team. All the coaches are gone, as it said in the statement, because managers these days bring in their own people. So one goes, they all go. That's a big payoff, right? We've wasted loads of money on players that probably aren't going to work. We've now had to pay off another management team. That's 2 management teams in 12 months we've paid off. None of that's cheap. And these days it is all about money. Money's very important. And we have to get the next one right. Because not only that, we have to start winning trophies. I mean, if we can get a new manager in the next month, 2 or 3 games in, he could win a cup. That could be an enormous boost for whoever they bring in. But it might still be the interim management team. And they might just take to it, and we might end up with them till Christmas. We just don't know. We don't know how long they're going to be in it. But that's obviously for the management. That's obviously for the board of directors to do, and James Bisgrove and John Bennett to sort out. But man, Michael Beale had to go. I mean, we've all been saying it. I mean, I'm actually glad, for the sake of the podcast, I was at the game yesterday and not on the reaction pod, because I'd have got you closed down.
Listen, I've seen a few memes flying about from yesterday's reaction podcast. It's amazing how sad some people truly are, but there we go. A good point for Graham on Facebook. We're in a lot of trouble this season. No manager and a lot of money spent on what appears to be substandard players. This is huge for us. Get the next appointment wrong and we are screwed. What position has Michael Beale left this team in?
He's left it in a worse state. For me, he's left it in a worse state than it was when he took over. When he took over last November. So we've gone backwards in the last, 10 months? We've gone backwards in the last 10 months. So, I mean, he came into a fairly bad situation. Whoever comes in now is coming into an even worse situation. Because Michael Beale come into a situation where he knew he was going to have to overhaul the squad and spend quite a lot of money bringing a lot of players. Well, he's done that, and it hasn't worked. So whoever's coming in's got to overhaul that. But the players he's brought in, most of them are on really, really good contracts, and they're on long contracts. So if we can't move them on, the new guy who comes in's got to work with what he's got, and that could be a difficult job.
Ross, you obviously were on Rabble Sundays earlier, and Rangers could not have picked a worse time for the podcast to make that announcement just as we went off air. So obviously, without going back over probably quite a lot of what you and the guys spoke about, your reaction?
They finally made the right decision, Martin. I was obviously watching you boys talking about it there, and it's a decision that everybody knew was coming after the Celtic game. Oh heck, you don't want my face that big, Martin. What's going on, man? Scare away the rains. After the Celtic game, everybody knew we were limping on. He was speaking. How many times did they say 3 games in 7 days the other day in his presser? Like, you know, the pressure was on, and he was trying to justify clinging on to Motherwell. And then after the game yesterday, he just looked like a defeated man. But he's looked like a defeated man for a few weeks. I'm actually glad for him that the board have pulled the trigger now, because he's a guy with a young family and stuff like that as well, and the pressure was mounting on him, and right now it was on the cusp of people starting to really hate Michael Beale the man rather than Michael Beale the manager, and a lot of personal insults and stuff going towards him. So I'm glad they've pulled the trigger. As I said on the pod before, the only issue now is who decides on a new manager, because none of your board have got the credentials to pick what makes a good Rangers football manager. I think if we've obviously got interim coaches in, are they interim for the next 2 weeks to the international break and then we rush it through, or do they boys look after the team until such times as we concentrate, put a 6-month plan together to get us to kind of near the end of the season and say,
that might completely depend, Ross, on results. But depends on how long the board search. But that Ross, that actually brings us to an interesting point that I never thought of. So thank you. So I'll come straight back to you then, Ross. The board have obviously made poor appointments in Michael Beale and Gio, although Gio did get us to a European final and he won a Scottish Cup. But it's been 2 poor appointments in terms of the league. So again, even though we have no option, we have to put our trust in the board now to go and find a new manager. But it has to be the right manager. And I suppose then, if it takes the board 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, do we just have to wait and trust that they're going to get it right? And obviously, we're going to come and speak about the interim management team in a wee second, Ross. But just on that search for a new manager, this one has to be right.
It's got to be. There is no messing about. I was talking to the guys there after we went off air. Obviously, everybody knows my missus is a Celtic fan, and I remember when Rodgers was linked to going back to them in the summer, she was very much of the Green Brigade attitude, don't want him anywhere near my club, this, that, the other. But see, at the end of the day, see if you're going to spend the money, go and get the best person available. It doesn't matter if they're a Rangers man, a Celtic man, it doesn't matter if they're a Martian, it doesn't matter if they're Spanish, English, French. What does it matter? See, you decide on a budget, and you then go and find who fits that budget and who's the best candidate. Know who's the staunchest Rangers man. Know who's the best at Football Manager 1996, 1997. Could score 40 goals a season with Gordon Jury. So you go and find who's the best person for the manager's role now. Some fans won't like it. Some fans will like it. But we cannot, Martin, just go and jump on another manager and just say, right, we're going to go and get him and give him a 4-year deal. We can't keep doing this, because there again, what kind of wages Michael Beale and his backroom staff on? And now we're going to be paying that up for the next. Do they have a 4-year deal? So you're paying up 3 years of a contract for a guy that's going to be sitting with a tartan slippers on again. Same as we did with Gio. So we can't afford to keep paying. But see, for me, now, I look at a lot of folks saying we can't afford the money for a decent manager. See, if you gave me a proven manager who was going to cost 40 grand a week, we're probably paying the best part of 60 grand a week now on Dessers and Lammers. I know what I'd rather have, a competent manager or 2 players that have been bought by an incompetent manager. So it's very important, but for me, you speculate to accumulate here. We break the bank, go and get the best guy we can go and get. And I don't mean break the bank as in put ourselves in the financial shit. But what I mean is we get our budget and we go and get the best person that we can practically get for that job. We don't just go and start. We can't afford to go and take another project in and hope that they come good because it worked with Gerrard. Gerrard was a worldwide name in football. We attracted players of calibre. He demanded respect. And that's not going to work all the time. That works probably 1 in every 20. We've seen it at other clubs. I made a joke earlier about Ian Cathro. Somebody who looked like a good manager, knew all the stats, could sell snow to the Eskimos. But they're no very good football managers. We done it with Gerrard. We done it with Gerrard, and you've had your chance at that, getting lucky. So now we need to go and get somebody who's got the credentials, and by the way, somebody who's got the balls to come in and say, do you know what? I'm going to make changes to the playing staff and to the way we coach and to the attitudes of the players. And somebody that's going to say, hold on a minute, we're Rangers Football Club. All the great managers, obviously, Wolf's the most fucking Rangers diehard in the world. He's seen managers that come in. What was it Walter Smith says? When you come here, you put yourself second to Rangers, and it's the only time you'll accept second in your life. We're accepting second every season now, Martin. And we're no, the fans are no. That's why these podcasts exist, and that's why these podcasts get views. Because see your Stevie, your Jimmy, and your Suzanne that sit round about your Ibrox, they want to hear that somebody else still cares. That's why these podcasts are growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, because they're not getting the answers they want. So they want to be able to sit here and watch people that feel the same as them, are going through the same frustration. And we don't have that, but it looks like things for the board right down to some of the players. They're quite happy to be second best and just pick up a wage.
No, listen, 100% agree. And I'm actually, 8:30 on the Sunday night when the game finished at, 5 o'clock on the Saturday, why it's took, and that's just me obviously being a bit pedantic, but why it's took that long for them to announce that Beale's gone. Maybe there was paperwork that needed done or something, I don't know. But just very quickly on a side note, Rangers on tour. Ross being in the pod tonight is like when Beale turned up at Gio, when Gio was the boss, one of the Rabble is for the Tik Tok. Well, you might be right. You never know. But again, Wolf, it just goes back to that. We have no option but to put our trust in this board. And how difficult a job does a new manager coming in have? I mean, you've already mentioned, that Beale's left us in a worse position than what we were. But can a new manager come in before January and get this team turned around to some kind of competitive level?
Well, it's not whether he can. He's going to have to. I mean, as Ross says, he's 100%. I mean, I can come with.
Do we have the quality, though, Will? Do we have the quality within that squad to do that?
Like these players that he's brought in, most of them can't be as bad as they appear to be for whatever reason. Whether they don't trust the way Beale was playing, whether the coaching was wrong, whether they just didn't believe the things he was telling them, they can't be as bad as they were. I mean, Dessers scored what 10, 12 goals for finding in the European competition. Okay, it was the third European competition. In a European competition, you've got to have something about you to do that. I mean, you have to have something about you to do that, right?
The manager didn't make Dessers miss for 2 yards out and float it right near the bar.
No, he didn't. But if he's not confident because he's not confident in what he's been told to do, that's going to play on the guy. I've never been a professional footballer. I've never been that close to professional footballers. I don't know what makes them all tick, but the mentality's got to be right. And it's maybe something in the way they're coached or what they be. I mean, is it a case of the players went out? I mean, as supporters, we had no idea what Michael Beale was trying to do. So if we had no idea, did the players have any idea what he was trying to do? You know, maybe they were getting a bit. I don't know. I mean, you're right. I don't see what he sees in Dessers. But the fact that 2 years ago the guy scored 10 goals in a European competition, he can't be a diddy, right? Because you don't. I mean, I think a lot of his goals at Feyenoord, he was coming off the bench and scoring when teams were tired or whatever. Maybe Michael Beale was playing him the wrong way, using them wrongly. I don't know. That's why I'm just an old guy sitting on a podcast talking about a manager being sacked, and I'm not the manager that's been sacked or the manager that's taken over from him. You know, it's but we have to get it right. As somebody said in the comments earlier, if the interim guys get it right, then the board can take their time because we're doing things right. If they bomb in the next 2 games, the board will just panic and appoint anybody. They'll appoint somebody because we have to get it right, and we'll have to get this one right. Because if we don't, we're going to end up as the second best team in this country for a long time. We are going to be, to use one I heard on another podcast yesterday on Saturday, we're going to end up like Espanyol to Barcelona. Simple as that. We'll be the second best team in the city forever and a day, and that we can't accept that. We just can't accept. So we have to get it right. Ross is right. We have to throw it. Every resource we've got, we have to throw at the right guy. But worryingly, we don't have football men on the board. I mean, this board will turn around and say they didn't appoint Michael Beale because John Bennett wasn't chairman at the time, although he was vice chairman at the time. James Bisgrove wasn't
they could just
the
blame it
CEO.
all on Ross Wilson. But then we don't have a director of football either, Will, to make a manager decision.
And as I said earlier, I don't know whether Beale said to them, "Don't worry about replacing Ross, I can do it," or they said, "We ain't going to replace him, you have to do it." Because they did say that after the transfer window closed, they would look at the position of director of football. They haven't done that. Transfer window closed at the end of 4 or 5 weeks ago. There's been no word of whether we're getting the director of football, whether we're not getting the director of football, whether we're streamlining what they do. Nothing. And they said that they would address it then. So do they address it now? Are they now looking? Are they actively looking for a director of football, which they're going to bring in a manager, which is the way it's supposed to work? Or do they bring in the manager, then bring in the director of football, or do they just ditch the director of football? We don't know because the board won't tell us anything. I mean, we haven't heard from the chairman this season. This season is now 2 months in. We haven't heard a peep out of John Bennett, and we've heard very little out of James Bisgrove. That's not what they said they were going to do. They said they were going to communicate with us. They're not communicating with us. But that's a different issue for a different day. I mean, we have to get this appointment right. And if it takes, as you said, it takes 4 days, great if it's right. If it takes 4 weeks, great if it's right. If it takes 4 months, great if it's right. Hopefully they've got the interim team right. I mean, everybody seems to have trust in Stephen Davis. He's taken a huge gamble accepting this because everybody at Rangers loves Stephen Davis. And if he takes this and crashes and burns, that will very, very quickly change.
No, it won't. I don't think it would. We all still love Murray, don't we? Ross, and by the way, I was going to say on Dessers, Marco Negri had a great 6 months at Rangers and then failed, but I'm pretty sure Dessers doesn't know Sergio Parini, so he'll probably can't use that as an excuse. Just quickly on this, Ross, a super chat has come in, and we're going to start getting names. I don't know anything about Kevin Muscat, but beep bop boop. Kevin Muscat, for me, he'll bring the funder back. Just quickly on that thing, because it is a super chat. Thank you for the support, beep bop, as usual. Kevin Muscat, a name who's been shouted about for months. No months, but weeks. I don't know anything about him, Ross.
His managerial career, no. I know that he worked with Postecoglou, so for me it's a lazy name to throw out there because he's an ex-player, and what Celtic done with Postecoglou seemed to work. I think that the thing that any manager worth their salt who's got an attitude of we are, bar 2 games of a season when we visit Parkhead, we should be on the front foot attacking and playing our own game, high pressing, forcing teams into mistakes. We need a manager that's got to do that. Our last 2 managers are more want to keep the ball and play the horseshoe. That the last 4 games we've played, that's been ever present. The horseshoe, the Motherwell game at Ibrox, all we done was try and keep possession when we went 1-0 up. Even at the weekend there, You're 2-1 down to Aberdeen, and Lundstrom's getting the ball, passing it inside. It's getting put out to the wing, then it's going back to Goldson, then he hits a big long. It's the exact same. See, what the one thing that Brendan Rodgers and Ange Postecoglou do is don't give one monkeys what any other team in this league does, because they know they've got a better budget, they know they've got a better team, they know they've got better players. They don't play with any fear, and because of that, every other team fears them. We show too much respect to teams in this league, and as Wolf says, the worry for me is, see now, there's no fear factor. Teams come to Ibrox and expect that they could get away with a draw. That was never the case. Folk were coming to Ibrox 15, 20 years ago. Folk were coming to Ibrox and trying not to get scudded 5 or 6-0. See now, teams come and believe they can take points. And when we travel anywhere, we've got the fear factor. We go to places like Kilmarnock on the first game of the season, and we go there and play with, set up with 2 defensive midfielders. Everywhere we go, we show teams respect, and Celtic don't. So see if we can get a gaffer that comes into this club and says, do you know what, we're Rangers, we're better than you. We've got better players than you, we've got a better budget, we've got a better setup, we've got a better academy, we've got better coaches, and goes and stop giving respect to every Tom, Dick and Harry in this team, in this league rather. There's nothing. Celtic play the same way in the league as they play in Europe. They go and get guffed in Europe, right? But they don't show any fear. They'll go and play teams that they know are better than them, and they'll say, no, this is the way we play. And then they'll come back to Scotland, play the same way again, and absolutely hammer teams. See, for me, Europe's a good addition, right? But see, for me, I want to be winning this league. That's the bread and butter for this club. See, European runs and Gio got us to a final and we were within a penalty. But see, the next season, did we kick on and go and win the league? No, we never. We need to go and start playing like Glasgow Rangers. No playing like... At the moment, we are fast becoming a team like Hearts that will go to Parkhead and play for a draw. We'll go to Aberdeen and be quite happy if we come away with a 1-0 win. That's no Rangers. That's not about the way this club... Well, if you've been watching this since Jesus was cutting about in his sandals, you've been watching this club. Do you know what I mean? You travelled to the first away game on Noah's Ark. You've been here forever. So you know that that's not the standards of Rangers. And that's kind of where you're going with the Espanyolification of Rangers. Mm-hmm. We cannot afford to keep going down this track, or that's what we are going to become. Just another Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen that are maybe once every 10 years will win a cup, but Celtic will just stroll the league every single year. Can't afford that, but it's where we're headed.
Martin, Ross is absolutely spot on. 100%. You can't agree with that. I can't disagree with a single word that he said. I mean, even the Aberdeen game yesterday, we're set up really negative. We treat teams like Aberdeen as if they're fucking prime Barcelona. We worry, and it was the same with Gio. We worry too much about what they're going to do. We should be letting them worry about us. Well, we're Rangers. We've got better. Well, we should have better players than them, right? The difference is they want it more than us. Aberdeen came Ibrox yesterday, right? To use that game as an example because it's the most recent one, right? They didn't get out of their own half for 30 minutes. They didn't have the ball in our half for the first 30 minutes. We missed a hat load of chances. They got one chance in the first half and scored it. And after that, we were on the back foot. They just sat in and hit us on the break because we treated them like they were prime Barcelona. They just sat in, soaked it all up and hit us on the break. And they knew what they were doing. They were better coached than we were. I mean, Michael Beale got schooled yesterday, right? By Barry fucking, excuse my language, but Barry fucking Robson, right? Barry Robson hasn't got a clue about football. I've watched him when he was Aberdeen's under-18 coach, and he jumped in the boat like a jack in the box for 90 minutes. And he schooled Michael Beale yesterday. Absolutely schooled him. And his players wanted to play for him. They had a game plan. They had a way of playing, and it worked for them. Motherwell were well organised. They should have got something off us. We sat back, we gave Celtic too much respect, they beat us. Any team with a half decent game plan, we've struggled against. And the ones that are well coached as well, they've beat us. We need to get away from that. As Ross says, we need to let teams worry about us. They're coming to Ibrox now saying we've got a point and we're taking at least that point home, and most of them are doing it. They should be coming to Ibrox, as Ross says, right, let's just keep the score down here, guys.
Do you know what it is, Wolf? I don't know if it is the fact, I don't know if it is that Barry Robson and even Brendan Rodgers to a point out-tactic or out-schooled Michael Beale. I just think that as soon as we go behind, and I think this obviously must come from the training pitch or comes from the demeanour of the manager, the players just chuck it. The players that didn't really know what to do. And I don't think Michael Beale knew what to do. I don't think it was so much the expertise of the managers or the teams that we were coming up against, Wolf. And I think that's obviously been one of the biggest issues, that Michael Beale just had no idea what he was doing.
No, because he doesn't know he didn't know how to cope when you're right, he didn't know how to cope when we went behind. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. They outschooled them. They knew that if they could sit in and take the lead, we were finished, because he had no way of changing it around. The substitutions have been bizarre. You know what I mean? I mean, he brings up Bailey Rice and then doesn't play him. Throws him in against Motherwell when we're struggling. Doesn't put him on against Livingston to get some game time when we're absolutely coasting. You know, he brings Zach Lovelace in out of the cold. We're struggling against Aberdeen. He throws him on up front. What's the point of doing that? You're potentially going to destroy the guy's confidence. You know what I mean? It's just what he said and what he did were two completely different things. And it's just, I just don't know. It's just bizarre. I thought I was one of the ones that was happy when he came in, because there was all the rhetoric behind him being that he was the brains behind Gerrard. Gerrard was just the front, and Michael Beale did all the coaching, and he probably was a very, very good coach. But I think he took too much on. I think he was trying to do everybody's job, and it was too much for him.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. We have a few more super chats coming through. Andrew Barclay loved yesterday's pod. Hopefully Stephen Davis steadies his ship. We'll come on to Stephen Davis in a few seconds. Sam Holmes, I know a decent amount about Muscat managerial wise, and what I will say is that he is no nonsense, and the football he plays is very attacking. Paul Blatt, love the show, lads. Time to get Martindale in. We'll cover that in a wee second. And Bob Jones as well with a super chat. Thank you, Bob. Please, Nutson. Quickly over these managers, because I do want to touch, Ross, on Stephen Davis and Alex Ray and stuff like that. And I know that time is getting on, and there's other shows out there as well. So, look, Martindale, this has been, and the reason I'm bringing Martindale up, Ross, is because it is full in our comments, obviously, as well. Paul's put the super chat in. Davy Martindale, as much as we all love him, as much as we all think he is quality, I don't see Rangers even entertaining that idea. And I don't actually see that really suiting Martindale, to be honest with you, as well, because that guy basically owns Livingston. I'm
not sure it would have the same effect storming on with the skin tight black polo shirt with the Rangers tie and the Prada trainees and that. I'm not too sure that would go. Listen, David Martindale, I've said it before on here before Beale came in. David Martindale's done a wonderful job at Livingston on no budget, because what he's got is a team. What he's got is a team that will slog, fight, battle. They're a gang. Livingston are a gang that will fight. Every single one of them would die for each other on that park. Is that what Rangers need? No. Is he a better manager than Livingston? I believe he is. I believe Martindale could go to a Hibs or Hearts and Aberdeen, take that step up and be an effective manager. I don't think he's what we need. He would get a song out of players, right? And I'm hoping that that's why they've took Alex Ray in. I know Alex personally, and he's a die-hard Rangers man, and he knows what the standards are. He was here during the good times. He was here for Helicopter Sunday, and he speaks great at that day. So he knows what it's like to slog out a league. He knows what it's like to win games when there's heavy pressure on you. My only worry would be, is Stephen Davis, as a member of the current first-team squad, going to make the hard decisions that need to be made right now? I don't know.
Is he still a member of the first-team squad, though?
He's training. He's doing his rehab, isn't he? So he's. Michael Beale always said that there was a chance if Davis wanted to get into coaching, he could, or if he thought about playing again. Michael Beale had always left that door open, mate. I would consider Stephen Davis still an injured player for Rangers. I think he's got a contract there if he wanted it. My point is, Martin, I don't see him coming in and saying, let's try something different. Right, Tav, you're on the bench today, and we're going to give Dujon Sterling a start. I don't see him making that decision. I don't see him saying to a Bailey Rice, listen, Bailey, I'm going to put you in for the start of the day. Jack or Lunny, yous are going to drop out. Cifuentes, you're going to drop out to put a young boy in. Is he going to make the decisions? Is any Rangers man, and I use the term because that's what all the fans seem to talk about, Muscat, ex-Rangers player, this one, ex-Rangers player, that one, loves the club. Is an ex-Rangers man going to come in and have that sight to say, it doesn't matter what's going on in the past, this is my team now? I don't know. And that would be my worry with Davis, is that it's just much of the same because he is only an interim, he doesn't want to make the big decisions. And that's always going to be the worry when you bring an interim gaffer in, is that they see it as they're only just looking after the players. They've not really don't want to make any big decisions in case it affects the next manager coming in.
I get that, Wolf, but I suppose we don't know what Stephen Davis is like behind the scenes. We know what Stephen Davis is like in front of the cameras and at meet and greets and stuff like that. He's one of the nicest guys you can meet. But what's he going to be like as a coach, albeit interim? We don't know. But it's probably going to be the hardest interim job that you could walk into. And it's going to be a massive test for Stephen Davis, who has little to zero coaching experience. Alex Ray is a far more experienced coach than Stephen Davis. So Stephen Davis is the one that's been named by the club as who's going to be in interim charge with Alex Ray and Stephen Smith and Gilmore underneath him. So he's the boss, and what a job to be thrown into.
Yeah, I mean, but you need to have somebody out there as basically Stephen Davis is going to be the guy doing the press conferences. Is what that's telling me. We don't know exactly what the remit's obviously going to be to steady the ship, get us winning games again, get the fans back on side. Right now, the board might have said to him, "Look, we're looking for a big name manager, right? Which would rule out every single manager in Scotland. It would rule out David Martindale. It would rule out Derek McInnes. It would rule out Stephen Robinson, because these guys are names in Scotland, but outside of Scotland, nobody's ever heard of them, right? Let's be honest, right? So when Steven Gerrard came in, he was a massive name that everybody in football knew who he was. So he would approach players and they go, "Fuck, that's Steven Gerrard. We're going to play for him," right? So Rangers need that sort of manager, not necessarily as big a name as him, but a name that people outside of Scotland will hail. A likes of a Nuts and Potter, I think, is right out of the picture because he's on far too much money, still getting paid by Chelsea. But a guy that people outside of Scotland will have heard of. So, I mean, for example, could the board maybe have said, "Listen, you guys come in interim. If you do a good job when the new manager comes in, we'll be looking to keep you on, as assistants to him or as coaching staff to the new guy. We're bringing in the new guy because when Postecoglou came into Celtic, he came in on his own. He didn't bring a coaching team with him.
But he was unknown. You're talking about you want us to bring in a big-ish name or a big name for Scottish football. You want to bring in an experienced coach who's won things. An experienced coach who's won things always has his own backroom team. There's absolutely no danger that we're getting a top level coach on a decent wage, and then you say to him, "By the way, these guys have done well, so they're going to stay with you." The manager gets a decision on his backroom staff.
Of course he does, 100% he does. But I mean, maybe they wouldn't all. Well, I mean, Colin Stewart would go back to being the goalkeeping coach because that's what he is. He's a goalkeeping coach, right? Brian Gilmore would go back to being an academy coach because that's what he is, right? So it might be a case of, look, do you want to keep Stephen Davis and Alec Ray in the building? Alec Ray be quite happy to go and do what Alec Ray does. Like Ross, I know Alec Ray as well, and I know Alec Ray as well, and he'd quite happily just step back out. He'll come in, help Rangers out, and step back in and do his TV duties. So you're really talking about Stephen Davis, right? So if a new guy comes in with his own guys, if Stephen Davis has done a turn, he might want to keep him in because there's continuity, because he knows the players, he knows the club. A new manager's going to need that because the Rangers are an institution. You can't just walk into an institution with a completely blank canvas of guys and say, "Here you go, get on with it." They need somebody there to tell them what the club's all about. That's part of the problem we've got with the new players. There's nobody there really, to tell them what the club's all about, because we used to have the late great Sandy Jardine used to meet players at airport, take them and tell them what it was about. Walter Smith did it before he succumbed to his illnesses and sadly passed away. Jimmy Bell was there to tell them, "Look, this is what the club we expect." Unfortunately, none of these guys are with us anymore. So we need somebody like that. Could Stephen Davis be the next guy to be doing that when a new guy comes in. Is what I'm getting at. I'm not saying they'll keep him on the coaching staff necessarily, but they'll keep him about the club. You know what I mean? That's the sort of thing we need. But we need a name. I don't think bringing in anybody that's currently working or recently worked in Scotland is going to do us any favours, because it's not a big enough name out with Scottish football.
And I love the sarcasm here from LR2000. Billy Dodge is my pick. Great job at Inverness. There you go. Nice wee bit of sarcasm. Just in terms then, Ross, of a new manager, we've kind of says that we need a big name or we need a manager who's won things. And again, I'll kind of take it back to a point that I made earlier. Do we trust the board to not just get it right, but do we trust the board to spend the money that's going to be required? If you believe the rumours, their manager's on in excess of £3 million a year. I believe Gerrard was on $1 million. I think Beale was on around about the same, $1 million and a half. Will we make that jump to £2.5–3 million a year for a top level manager?
What does £3 million a year equate to a week?
Oh, mate, don't ask me maths.
My maths ain't mathing right now.
Can you do that, son, please? Thank you.
Is it like
so
60
I'll
grand
get
a
that
week?
in a minute.
Is it 60 grand a week? Maybe it's not.
£57,692.31 a week.
Listen, your boy's not bad. Quick now. 60 grand a week. So would you rather have a manager who is on 50 grand a week, but is a proven winner, who's got a style of play that's got a worldwide name that players want to come and play for? Or would you rather have a Diddy and another Sam Lammers and Dessers that were picked to obscurity to try and be project players that they run about the 30 mark? Because that's the way I look at it, mate. That the manager.
Can I throw that straight back at you, Ross?
Yes.
Right, and this is just from a board point of view, right? What if John Bennett was sitting here right now and he says to you, right, all right, okay, Ross, that's fine. What if I pay a manager 57,222 pence, whatever it was, Wolf said, right, a week, and he does exactly what Michael Beale's just done, and I need to pay him off?
Well, you've got him on
Is that the risk that Rangers need to take now?
Mate, what Rangers need to do is what did Celtic do with Postecoglou? A 1 year rolling contract.
Yep.
Rangers need to go down that route, Martin. And do you know what? See if we get the correct calibre of director of football in that we need. That eliminates some of the risk of them having a good season and leaving, because you should already be identifying the next one and the next one again. That's the whole point of a director of football role. And that's what I was saying on the earlier pod. We've gave Michael Beale, a guy who had a 30% win rate at QPR over 20 games or whatever in his whole managerial career. We've brought him in and gave him the keys to Ibrox. He's not just everybody seen the interview the other week with the guy Bamfield. Mm-hmm. He's having the input. Harry Watland, was a youth coach at Chelsea. So Bill got to bring in his own staff. He never had a Rangers girl in there. He probably never even had another A-licensed coach on there apart from Bamfield. They were all youth coaches, and they ended up stumbling into the job of their dreams because they were pals with Mick Beale 3 years ago in the youth academies and all that. So we need to get the director of football role filled with somebody competent, not another one of the car salesmen like your Ross Wilsons and stuff. I mean, and I don't even know, because I'm not a businessman, so I don't know what a good director of football looks like. Like, if you'd have told me Davy Weir was going to become one of the best directors of football at Brighton, I would have said, don't really know what gives Davy Weir the credentials to go and be a director of football, but he's smashing it. He's absolutely brilliant. So we should have guys on our board that can go and identify a director of football, and we should then have a director of football that can go and identify managers. That's why these guys are all cutting about in suits with quiffs and all that, and on their fucking £2 million a year CEO wages or whatever James Bisgrove's on. Bennett, Bisgrove, that's their job. This should all be in place. We're getting ran like a team. You probably find you could go to Steadfast Boys Club or something, and they'd have a committee that's more hanging to pick a football team than ours.
Martin, we could do worse, right? And again, what Ross is saying is right about directors of football. Right? We could do worse if we need to bring somebody in to oversee the football operation at the moment, right? We could do worse than bringing Gordon Smith back to Rangers. It's a name that's just come right into my head, right? Because Gordon Smith's done that sort of job before. He's done all the administrative stuff, right? He's getting on a bit, but he's still got all his faculties. And he would certainly steady the ship, and he knows what Rangers are about. He was about when, I mean, he worked under Jock Wallace. He knows the standard Rangers expect. So somebody like him, because we need to bring somebody in that's going to get us back to where we're supposed to be and do it bloody quickly. Get the standards back up, because the standards have slipped. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So whether you need to go back to somebody like him and say, look, Gordon, can you come in? Give us a couple of years. And then that buys us a bit of time to get in a proper director of football for the modern game with a manager to go beside it. It's just a name that came into my head that could probably do some sort of football administrative job, maybe not director of football, or something like that. Because that's what we need. We need somebody to oversee the whole thing, because the board that, I mean, James Bisgrove's a marketing guy. He's a guy who's in there to make money, and he's making the club a lot of money, right? But that's all he is. He's not a football man. He said that when he came into the club, I'm not a football man, right? John Bennett's a Rangers fan. He's basically like one of us, but in a nice posh suit with a quiff. You know what I mean? So we need somebody in that knows football, that knows football administration. And for me, somebody like Gordon Smith is that kind of guy.
Well, another super chat in from Ryan James. Thank you very much, Ryan. Someone like Gallardo would do wonders here, Ross. I keep seeing this Gallardo name mentioned.
So he was mentioned in the past as well, wasn't he, Martin? And I don't see, this is a thing. See, when we're going to sign players, mate, I'll go and watch YouTube videos. See, we're linked with managers. How do you? I don't. Outside of Scotland and England, mate, I don't watch really any other football, to be quite honest with you. I'm not that cultured that I'll sit and watch Hamburg versus AZ Mainz or whatever they're called, or Mainz 04. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Milan derby could be on the new, and I wouldn't watch it, because I've
mine's zero fear, actually.
There you go. See, so you know more German than me, so congratulations. That's how you're cultured, Martin. You've got a better culture than me. But no, see, if there was a Spanish game on outside my back garden, mate, I wouldn't open the curtains to watch it, because I've not got that. I like football, but I like stuff that means something to me.
I'd be more worried about my dating, but aye.
Well, aye. So I don't really know, mate. There's a lot of managers. See, out with there's got to be cracking managers. I would say that there must be really good pedigree managers, the same as there's really good pedigree players that are flying under the radar, right? But that's not my job to go and scout managers. That's a director of football's job. We don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have somebody that can go into. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm plugging all the other podcasts for you tonight, Martin. But I watch the boy Joshua Barry on the Rangers Review, right? He's somebody that can go into stats bomb and pull analytics and performances, and he's very good at all that sort of stuff. We must have somebody like that can go and get us a shortlist of possible directors of football that would be within our budget and approachable. So why have we been 6 months with foot one, and now we've got to the stage where...
Because before we'd save money on it, because they thought Beale could do everything, and now that's why the board have left us in the position that we're in.
Well, that's sheer incompetence, mate, because Beale,
exactly.
everybody could see for the Newcastle game in pre-season. I think everybody could kind of have a wee glimmer of, oh, this isn't going to work. I can see that he's trying, but it doesn't correlate to good results. So see, at that point, surely our board for the last 3 months, 2 months definitely, have been looking at performances and gone, fuck, we need to start really getting our finger out our holes here, because we need a director of football in, just in case this keeps going on the trajectory that we could all see it going, that leads to the decision that's had to be made tonight. Our board are probably on the golf.
That goes to show me, Ross, sorry to cut in, that goes to show me the board that we have, as much as John Bennett likes to shout about how much he is, we don't have football people on our board, which begs the question even more why we don't have a director of football, because everybody and their granny, you know what I mean, could see that the way that this was going, could see it just wasn't working. And pre-season, it's the first time that I've seen pre-season, even before the first game of the season, people were looking at pre-season going, something's not right. Pre-season is normally just pre-season. You don't normally bother with it. If you don't do well, you don't do well. It's a bunch of friendlies. But just about everybody was going, no, something's not right here. And the fact that the board have done nothing, absolutely no homework on anything else, when all we were told when Ross Wilson was here was we succession plan. We know exactly what we're doing. If one manager doesn't work, the next one's going to be waiting, so that nothing ever affects our first team. So the board have done nothing. The board are just as culpable in all of this, by the way, as what Michael Beale is.
So there's been a football man, Martin, right? I'm not saying John Bennett isn't a football man. He's obviously got a deep love of Rangers. He's obviously got very deep pockets, and he's put a lot of his money into the club in order to get us financially where we are, right? And you've got to applaud somebody like that loves the club. I've not got the money to do it. I don't think they're going to take a 10p a month payment off of somebody like me that's skint, know what I mean? But somebody that's got the money, he's putting the money in. But I don't know John Bennett. Could John Bennett sit on this podcast after a game and talk about tactics and who was playing in what position and why it never worked and what did work? Is he that much of a football man, or is he just a Rangers supporter that's got money?
Do you know what? Sorry, on you go, Ross.
Because we need somebody at boardroom level who's played the game, who understands the game, and who knows what's going to make a successful Rangers manager. We need somebody that can sit with a potential director of football and say, what's your vision? And they tell them their football vision, how this works, how that works, how the academy links, how this links, how it all pieces together. And they've got to then break that down and say, does that model work for Rangers? We don't have somebody at that senior top of the tree level. What gives any of them? As I said earlier on, Kerr's probably get more credentials and wealth to sit and pick a new Rangers director of football than the guys that we've got on our board.
Yeah, do you know, I wouldn't argue with that. John Bennett would probably come on this podcast, buy it off me, and then sell it back to me for more than what he bought it. That's the kind of guy John Bennett is. Just quickly get to some of these super chats. Bob Jones, if we get Knutson, my super chat of happiness will be £50. Clip this, a man of my word. And Chris, who actually put in a super chat and then a super chat with a question. Thank you very much, Chris. This won't be a quick recovery. Beale has decimated the squad. Whoever becomes our manager has a big job of clearing out the duds. So just quickly, because we're getting on, Wolf, Knutson's mentioned just about every single day, it seems, even when we've got a manager. Is this going to happen? Is this just one of these, names that's going to constantly get mentioned by Rangers Football Club?
He just seems to be one of these names that's constantly mentioned. And I don't know anything about the guy. Like Ross says, you can go onto YouTube and look at players. You can't go onto YouTube and look at a reel of a manager because they're not out there doing anything other than managing. So I don't know anything about him. He seems to be linked all the time. It's like we've had certain players linked with us, over the years that they're always coming. They were seen in Asda and about in Tesco's and Braehead and all that. I mean, Knutson seems to be one of those. So it's up to the board to bring in the right man. The problem is as you guys have just said, is there anybody on the board that's got the credentials to know what they're looking for to actually bring in the right guy for the right reasons? And they have to get it right. We said that right from the very start. They had to get that's the last two they've got wrong. And part of the reason that the last two haven't worked is they've employed two guys who appear to be very nice guys. Right? Nice guys don't win anything. Nice teams don't win anything. You need to have a nasty streak about you. You need to be horrible's the wrong word, but you need to have something about you. Michael Beale's a thoroughly nice guy. But nice guys to me don't make good managers. They've got to be ruthless. Got to be absolutely ruthless. We need to bring in somebody that's ruthless, but then the board have to be ruthless to find the guy that's ruthless. And I don't know if they are. I don't know if they're the right people in the position. I mean, I really hope they don't go down the route of putting it out there to one of these stupid agencies and say, right, go find us a manager, because that'll just end up over another short-term fix that doesn't work.
Well, you never know the applications we're going to get. An application might surprise us. Final point to you then, Ross, and it's just back on Chris's super chat. This won't be a quick recovery. Beale has decimated the squad. Whoever becomes our manager has a big job of clearing out the duds. So in terms of, and we won't put a guess on it, but in terms of this season then, is this season recoverable? By the time it takes to find a new manager, with the players that we've got at our disposal, is this season recoverable? That's a difficult word for me to say.
You're in the semi-finals of the League Cup. Clear should be clear favourites to win it. All right, the other three teams are good, but we're back to that. For me, we are Rangers. We're a better team than our Hearts, a Hibs, and Aberdeen. All right, so that's got to be a priority. Get the first bit of silverware. We're 7 points behind in the league. We've got 3 Old Firm games still to play. Celtic, as I say, my missus is a Celtic fan. I've watched more or less every Celtic game this season because she wants to watch that while I'm watching Rangers and vice versa. Celtic this season have dramatically dropped off a cliff from where they were last year under Ange Postecoglou. Motherwell battered them at the weekend. Second half, battered them. So, see if we can get our house in order and go on a run of 10, 12, 14 games unbeaten. That 7 points can very quickly become 3 points and then you've still got 2 Old Firm games to go and play. So you can't write the league off at 7 points. Would I be right in saying when Gerrard left, we were six clear and Postecoglou's Celtic, they kicked on, went on a run and never looked back. So that's no done. You've started off your Europa League group with a win against arguably the team that are on par with is in the group. So you can't write off the Europa League. Also, the Scottish Cup. You're every bit as good as every other team in this league. See right now, and listen, my mate's just sent a video there, people cropping stuff we're saying on these podcasts and it's out on Twitter and it's all over the place, and that's one of the things, that's one of the hazards of coming on these podcasts. Folk can mock you, right, but you're just on here talking your truth. I don't think we're a worse team than Celtic. Well, we were worse managed than Celtic. But we need players to get back fit. We need our talisman to get back fit. You're looking at your Todd Cantwell's. But Todd Cantwell's been grossly underused this season, as I said on the podcast before as well. We took our best number 10 and we've played him in the 6, we've played him in the 8, we've played him at right wing to cover Tavernier. We need to play our best players in our best position. It doesn't matter if you're new. We brought in Danilo, we shunted him out left, we put him on the bench to persist with Dessers because Dessers cost $4 million, he was our top target. We're not playing our best players in their best positions at the best times. What we're doing is fucking about and trying to prove points, and that's got to stop. That's got to stop. There can't be any, but Tav's the captain, so he plays regardless. Now, see when Tav's in a slump of form, you've bought the boy Sterling in for Stoke, who was their player of the year last year. You're not going to tell me the boy's not got the credentials to play in the SPFL. We're not even giving him a chance. He played at left back against Celtic and was one of the best players on the park in a position that's unfamiliar to him. So we've got players, but we're not utilising them the way we should. And for me, that's it. Get back to the basics. Find out what works for us. What's the best formation we can play that gets us the most players in the attacking half of the park where they can do damage, and who's the best players to fill their positions. No other way about. No, we've bought Dessers, so we're there to play, but really we need to play Roof as well, so Danilo can sit on the bench. We spent £6 million on the boy, and he's sitting on the bench so that we can keep persisting with Dessers. Come on. We're bringing in Cifuentes, who doesn't look anywhere near ready, but we're just persisting with him. So it's not working. Why not give the boy Bailey Rice a shot? Why not at least give him that wee bit of impetus to say, do you know what? It's not worked for him. You're next in line. I'm telling everybody you're ready. Why is Connor Golson the mainstay at the centre? Why can we not say, do you know what? Suter and Balogun look like our best pair, and see if we need to get somebody to come in and play on the left. Play Suter and him. Because Suter on the right with Balogun on the left is the best we've looked all season against Livingston. And even at that, see, at the time when we're bringing other folk in, why, if Goldson's our best centre half that everybody tells you is, why is he not the one playing on the left out of position to give the less confident or the less skilled player the chance at right back where it's a natural position? Our whole team's catered and built around playing people no matter what, because we feel as if we need to play them, as if they've got some God-given right to play for Rangers week in, week out, just because they've been here the longest. Well, they've been here the longest. They've been here in one of the most unsuccessful periods in our history, where we've won 2 trophies out of the last 36. That to me tells me that they're losers. And I don't care if they've scored 105 goals for right back. Seeing the big moments in the big games in the league, between Golson and Tav, we lose a lot of points based on how many games against Celtic have they cut down the right-hand side, where beat Tav far too easy, play it close, it runs by Goldson and somebody taps it into the back post and Barisic is sleeping. In big moments, our big players let us down, but yet we consistently just keep going with them. And that's my biggest hope. But see whoever comes in next, as I said, they come in and they've got their suit on and they've got their big massive balls and a wheelbarrow in front of them and come in and just start making changes that need to be made.
And I 100% agree with just about every word you've just said there, Ross. And that is the best way to end this breaking news podcast. Listen, thank you to everybody watching. Phenomenal numbers watching. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody who was in the comments, everybody who put in a super chat. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. Obviously, my thanks to Wilf and Ross. Ross, welcome back, mate.
Thank you. I wish it was under better circumstances, but hey.
We absolutely all do. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow night, 7:30, for the phone-in, where you can have your say. I'm looking forward to that. That should be very busy, very interesting. I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, Michael Beale has been sacked as manager of Rangers Football Club, with Stephen Davis and Alex Ray taking temporary charge. So it will be good to see what happens going forward. Just gives everybody that wee bit of a boost that I think that we all needed. Wolf, my friend, thank you very much.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks a lot.
And we'll speak to you all very, very soon. Cheers, guys.